A massive international manhunt underway right now for the suspected driver in the van attack in Barcelona. Are these open border policies over there putting everyone in danger? Let's go to former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton. Ambassador Bolton, very good to see you. Tell me what open borders have done to Europe.
Well, I think they've certainly facilitated the migration of large numbers of people from North Africa and the Middle East moving without much of a trace. But I think really the central problem that Europe faces is not dissimilar to what the United States faces, and that's an unwillingness on the part of many governments and many people to acknowledge that this is something that goes well beyond law enforcement techniques, that it really is a war that's being waged against them, and I don't think they've taken that into account. That's one reason why week after week after week we say we're shocked and surprised again at another terrorist attacks in Barcelona, in Finland. As long as you view it as something that's unusual and that you can't account for and don't understand, you're going to be shocked and surprised for a long time.
Is this about political correctness, or is it about people not wanting their privacy interfered with, or both?
Maybe it's about civilizational weariness. I mean, people need to focus on the fact they are again confronted with a hostile ideology. I think when essentially communism was defeated at the end of the Cold War, a lot of people thought, well, we don't have that to worry about again. No more ideology around the world. This is an ideology. I think some European leaders acknowledge it, but I think the bulk do not. And I think that's why, among other reasons, they face more of these attacks to date anyway than we do.
Well, there's also a sense that, you know, if you're just nice to people, this won't happen. In fact, I spoke to someone recently from Italy who was pointing out that they hadn't had these kinds of problems in Italy, and the justification was, well, you know, we're really nice, we're really welcoming in Italy, unlike in France, unlike in Belgium. And, you know, I also spoke with an expert, intelligence expert, just yesterday who was very concerned about Italy right now, saying they potentially could be next. In other words, you can't bury your head in the sand and think, well, if we're just nice to people, somehow it's all going to be all right.
Yeah, well, there's a story from a terrorist attack in the Netherlands some years ago when the writer Theo van Gogh was killed by an attacker who killed him with a knife. Because he was deemed to be anti-Islamist. And Theo van Gogh's last words were, "Can't we talk?"
Wow. You can't talk to these extremists, and these extremists are growing in number. They're communicating online. What does it mean for authorities in terms of our intelligence gathering? And frankly, what does it mean for everybody's privacy rights? Do we have to be willing to give up some of that in order to keep us safe?
Well, I think if you don't treat this on a war footing, the odds of being able to anticipate and stop attacks before they occur will go down. But I honestly think the so-called threat to our privacy is greatly exaggerated. I think what some of the techniques that have been used, that have been so criticized, really involve trying to isolate communications among terrorists and suspected terrorists, so that the vast bulk of what's going on really doesn't affect people's privacy at all. And when it comes to individual surveillance, our Fourth Amendment still requires a court warrant. So this is something, I think this debate is completely out of control. I think people don't really understand.
We haven't even talked about the religious freedom issue going on. In other words, it's not Irish Catholics, right? I mean, Irish Catholics have had a history. When you think about the IRA, and I guess if you were an Irish Catholic going into the UK, they would look at you twice. Is that, in fact, what's got to happen with the Muslim population, only because it's more likely that you would find an extremist amongst that population versus, say, the Irish Catholics?
Well, I think it's more a question of where the countries are, where terrorism is embedded. When you have people coming from drug-producing countries, you're more worried that they might be smuggling illegal narcotics than somebody coming from Iceland. So this is all part of the focus on the terrorist threat. It's not an example of religious freedom to plot to assassinate people.
Yeah, no, these are tough questions that a lot of people don't want to deal with, but we have to. Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me.